And we begin tonight with new details and insight about alleged gunman Nikolas Cruz, charged in the deadly school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Tonight, ABC News obtaining this new video of Cruz fighting another student at the school back in 2016. Police say Cruz confessed to the murders of 17 students and staff members at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Sheriff Scott Israel, you see them there today visiting a 15-year-old, Anthony Borges, shot 5 times in the back.
This was filmed by a member of the Comancheros, an Australian gang with 300 members, their trademark black and gold motorbikes. Now they've set up a branch in New Zealand after 14 members were deported from Australia because of its tough immigration stance.
We thought it was inevitable that they'd eventually set a chapter up here.
We know that kids are getting devices younger and younger, especially in the last several years. So we went out to talk with families about, okay, we've got kids with devices and technology, and what were families' thoughts about it. And families mentioned that they really wanted kids to connect, but at the same time they were concerned about the connections. They just wanted to have more control.
And tonight, the couple who took in Nikolas Cruz after the death of his mother breaking their silence, saying they had no idea a monster was living under their roof. ABC's Adrian Bankert leads us off in Parkland.
Tonight, new video of the alleged Florida school shooter surfaces, showing him in a fight with classmates. First obtained by WPLG, that's apparently him in the white shirt.
One News spoke to one of the men when he first arrived in New Zealand 2 years ago.
They got me from home and they told me in my rights that I failed a character test, section 189. And yeah, they said, we've got to take you to jail. And then that's it. I'm here now.
They are notorious across the ditch. The Comancheros hit the headlines in Australia last week after their former boss was shot in a gym car park.
Messenger Kids is a standalone app, a communications app that resides on the child's tablet. And so the parents download it, and then after the parents set it up, the kids can talk or video chat with any pre-approved contacts that the parent approves. I think the key thing to remember is that parents are in control of the entire experience. I mean, your child cannot set this up on their own. You have to be there to set it up with them. We make sure of that.
The video comes to light as the family Cruz lived with says, "We had this monster living under our roof and we didn't know." Kimberly Snead and her husband James tell the Sun Sentinel, "Everything everybody seems to know, we didn't know." Cruz pictured here at his mother's funeral. The alleged killer moved in with the Sneads after her death.
The local branch is based in Auckland, but also have members in Waikato and Bay of Plenty. We got in touch with the Comancheros. They wouldn't be interviewed on camera, but told us they are growing in size and that they are very strict on who can become a member of what they call the Brotherhood.
And then throughout the process, they're controlling the contacts. They approve each and every contact. If they're uncomfortable for any reason, they can go and delete a contact and the child cannot reform that connection. And then if their child reports or blocks, they get a message right away that says, hey, this is kind of what's gone on. And that way it just opens up the chance for them to have a conversation with their child.
They say he followed every rule of their home to the T, but that he was battling depression and days before the shooting took him to a therapist. The day of the massacre, Kimberly Snead says she left home to run errands. By the time she returned, Cruz was gone. The next and last time they saw him, he was in custody. They say he apologized.
From what I can see, there's 3 patch members and potentially 3 or 4 prospects. They seem to have a bit of a tie into the Tongan community in Auckland, which is not surprising considering some of them are Tongan also.
Australia's tough new laws mean that hundreds of Kiwis are being deported.
It's a pretty regular stream now. It's the change in the immigration laws that Australia introduced some time ago.
So my concerns were numerous, actually, in terms of having a social media application for children. In this country, COPPA protects children under the age of 13 from being on social media and having their data being shared and being kind of, they're having their privacy compromised, things like that. All of those issues were definitely addressed during our time as advisory board members. We brought all of these issues to light with the Facebook team.
The Sneads, gun owners themselves, say they allowed Cruz to keep a handful of weapons, including the AR-15 he owned, in a locked gun cabinet. They thought they had the only key. One classmate tells ABC News he ended any communication with Cruz as his behavior spiraled downward.
He started going after one of my friends and threatening her, and I cut off from there.
This is a snapshot from Hutt Street at night. Barefoot and enraged, a group hurls abuse at business owner Gary Locke. His colleague hides inside while he grabs a cricket bat and calls police.
They're throwing bottles at me. They're just constantly abusing me. They've thrown punches at me.
The Backpackers hostel owner says there's violence in broad daylight too.
And I think they've done a really good job of taking those into account in the design of this application. In its ideal sense, the app will be used to connect kids specifically to some of their peers, but also to their family members, and family members that aren't necessarily in their general vicinity. So if they live in Boston, they can connect with grandma in California or New Mexico. Hopefully it'll just kind of foster that sense of community.
His security cameras filmed this woman tossing a can onto the road while a man kicks a bag.
And I've seen, a 12-year-old boy being punched at the bus stop.
Just weeks ago, this street fight spilled inside.
Do I fight back or do I walk away? I can't deal with it anymore.
This once very quiet, very vibrant part of the city has effectively descended into a bit of a war zone.
Investigators scour the front yard of the Spainsraid home, searching for clues in the hunt for a firebug. 2 Molotov cocktails were pelted at the house around 8:30 last night, one narrowly missing an elderly woman.
I thrown it straight through the window and it's landed right where she sits on the lounge, but fortunately she was at the table and she's grabbed some buckets of water and put it out.
A Sydney man's been badly mauled after trying to help break up a fight between a pair of bull terrier pups. It wasn't the pups that got him, but their protective mother, reacting suddenly and savagely to the human intervention.
Bandaged and bloodied after breaking up a dog fight, Ian Fraser is seen to by paramedics as the animal responsible, a female bull terrier.
He got suspended a lot of times, and he sold knives in his lunch boxes and he was expelled, but no one expected him to come back next year.
Tonight we know Cruz has now invoked his right to remain silent. He's being held in solitary confinement and remains on suicide watch.
5 minutes after we arrived on the street, our camera filmed an IGA worker confronting a shoplifter for stealing meat. Many are blaming Hutt Street's problems on the homeless centre.
I do have to put a little bit onto the Hutt Street centre because they have become big.
Traders say no less than 17 businesses have left Hutt Street over the past 3 years, and of those who've stayed, many of them have had to eliminate their outdoor dining.
Carol Trengoves lived at the home for more than 30 years. She was taken to hospital where she was treated for shock and minor injuries.
Pretty angry, frustrated, it could have been a lot worse. I could have not had my grandma here today, she could have been dead.
Carol's been left so shaken by the terrifying attack, family members say she might never be able to return to her beloved home.
She's pretty stressed out. She's not taken away at all. She'll be okay.
Is led away by a council ranger. Witnesses say she attacked when the Good Samaritan stepped in to break up a fight between 2 of her pups.
So he's gone in to help them and then he got set upon.
Will Goldthorpe, trained in first aid, was in his living room next door. He heard shouting and ran to help.
There's no doubt in my mind that Nikolas Cruz shot many people, killed 17. The killer is in custody, and we'll move forward with the legal process.
All right, Adrian Banker joins us live from Parkland, Florida. Adrian, I want to go back to that couple revealing so much about Cruz and also the moment they came face to face with him after the shooting.
People are taking drinks, they're taking food, they're asking for cigarettes, they're begging for money.
The Hutt Street Centre says it's aware of problems on the street and is working with police. Elspeth Hussey, 7 News.
Police later arrested a 40-year-old woman who lives just a street away. It's alleged she's also responsible for randomly throwing Molotov cocktails at 2 other nearby homes in the past week.
It could have gone through anyone's window. That was very concerning.
Tim Yateman, 7 News.
Wounds was quite significant, but he was standing up and talking to me. Once the adrenaline started to wear off from him a bit, he decided that he wasn't feeling too good and just had a bit of a minor collapse.
With his son Nathaniel helping, Will kept him conscious and stemmed the bleeding.
If it wasn't for that training, that guy could have possibly died.
Mr. Fraser was taken to hospital and into surgery.
Yes, that's right. It was really emotional, Tom. Kim says that she ran at Cruz yelling at him. Her husband had to hold her back. The sheriff tells us today that the investigation could take 1 or 2 more days or several more weeks before it's complete. And here at the high school, Building 12, which is where the killings took place, remains a crime scene.
One of the pups involved in the dogfight was also injured and was seen to by a vet. The bites to the victim's hands and arms, while serious, somehow avoided any major arteries. He remains here at Liverpool Hospital in a stable condition. The dog is in the Fairfield Council pound while a decision is made about her fate. Cameron Price, 7 News.